ShiftUp gained a lot of popularity just a few months ago when Stellar Blade released and gamers were defending them tooth and nail. The media was attacking them, but we weren't going to let that happen. We were going to support a game from developers who seemed extremely passionate. But at the end of the day, they are a company that wants to make money and they are going to do anything to stay afloat, even though they made a lot of money off of Stellar Blade. And now we're finding out some major news because ShiftUp has gone public. I have a few things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, I'm going to start off with referencing this Video Games SI article. It says South Korean game developer ShiftUp has successfully gone public in its home country with its initial stock offers raising around 320 million USD and stock prices surging by a staggering 49% during the first day of trading. Now, obviously, ShiftUp gained a lot of popularity in the gaming industry, and even though the media was attacking them and there were developers attacking their creative choices, we knew that Stellar Blade was going to make bank, and it did. They said it was extremely successful, it exceeded expectations, and they're already talking about potentially doing DLC or Stellar Blade 2, which is fantastic to hear, right? I really enjoyed the game at this point in time. It's my game of the year, and I do want them going forward to continue to make great content, but there were some issues surrounding Stellar Blade, and specifically lies. There were lies that we had found out pretty freaking quickly after launch, primarily days before release. They promised it was going to be uncensored worldwide, and we were all extremely hyped for it, and that's a big reason why so many people purchased the game, was because Western entertainment is so sanitized now, and we have to turn to Japanese and Korean creatives to get really good content with feminine women and muscular manly men. But we found out that there were outfits that were censored, there was the graffiti that was censored, and it did seem like it was primarily at the behest of Sony. But now, with seeing them go public, it raises a lot of questions and also a lot of red flags. A company going public is exactly how you get scum like BlackRock owning most of your shares, and that is a major issue. We know that it is a slippery slope. We know that companies oftentimes try their very best to stay true to their vision, but there are a lot of investors, and then, of course, their vision ends up getting watered down because, of course, companies want to make their content appeal to as many large investors as possible. And we have seen a shift in the mainstream industry over the past couple of years alone, where ESG is kind of reigning supreme, right? Every company wants to sanitize their games to the point where basically their ESG score goes up, right? They're so focused on DEI, and that's really what it seems investors are looking for at this point. A game that doesn't draw in a lot of negative attention, companies and developers who are very focused on kind of just staying within the rules of the industry and not trying to break out. And yes, Stellar Blade did have a lot of negative attention because of the mainstream media and a lot of activists attacking it, but it did still sell a lot of copies very freaking quickly. Now, a major issue here is gacha games and their Goddess of Victory title, and specifically where ShiftUp has published in the past and why they decided to really go public. And this all leads back, of course, it seemingly to Tencent, because when it comes to the Chinese region, you need to work with a company that is controlled by the CCP in order to get your titles published there, and that is exactly what happened with Goddess of Victory and ShiftUp. That title ended up being published in China. It gained a lot of attention, a lot of popularity, and that is a really big reason why ShiftUp was already a kind of giant name in the industry. They were already very well known because of the revenue and the size of that game, but with that comes Tencent. It says right here at the bottom of the article, a majority of the shares in ShiftUp is still owned by its CEO and co-founder Kim, which is great, don't get me wrong, but it also says he opened the trading on the South Korean stock exchange to mark his studio's entrance, with Chinese gaming giant Tencent being the second largest shareholder in the company at roughly 20%, which is instant red flags because Tencent doesn't buy out. They want to trick regulators, and instead of buying, they invest and invest and invest until the point where they have a say. Maybe not total control, but it is a sneaky way of slithering into every market across the world, and that is exactly what they have done. And they are, of course, controlled by the CCP. They're not a separate entity. We know the CCP doesn't work that way. So this right here is just some very bad news, and it is so disappointing because obviously right now we still have Stellar Blade, and we see the direction that they clearly have gone in with both of their titles. Lots of fan service, which is awesome, but we don't know what the future is going to hold. If in 4 or 5 years they come out with the Stellar Blade 2, how different will it really be? I would put a lot of money on saying it's going to be drastically different. Yeah, I'm sure it's still going to have some fan service, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to be even close to as risque as this game was, and people are upset. They're taking to social media to voice how unhappy they are. This is just like an IGN thread where they were talking about it going public and raising a whopping $320 million. And people here are saying this is not very good. This is what happens when you make games people actually want, and it is true. You make a lot of money and you gain a lot of attention, but at the same time, it's basically celebrating another developer dying and becoming a husk like EA, Ubisoft, and Activision. Nothing good happens to the end product when outside investors get into the company. Great, now shareholders will demand unsustainable levels of growth, and in the next game, Eve will have G Cups. Just means DEI loans are incoming. Another company goes public. Here comes the DEI brigade. I mean, there are people saying, with this amount of money, giving audiences what they want, what a great business strategy, and it definitely is a good business strategy, but what isn't is basically trading the trust you had with your customers in order to get investor funding. They were making a boatload of money, and they have consistently been for years now because of Goddess of Victory. Bad move. The stock market has always been a means for the wealthy to take control of rising businesses. This is the end of ShiftUp, and of course, just people are tweeting about it saying, reminder that when a company goes public, it's because they need that money, and that money is coming from companies like BlackRock. Seeing the comments, I never knew ShiftUp going public could be bad for them and us for as fans and consumers. Yeah, unfortunately, this is the reality now. They may still create really great content going forward. We're not going to know for years, but it is extremely worrying. And if you were someone who purchased Stellar Blade and supported ShiftUp for the months leading up to release that they were facing backlash, this is definitely something that you should know about. Like I said, Stellar Blade at this point in time is my game of the year. I live streamed a full playthrough and a new game plus playthrough with some of the newer content they added, with some of the new outfits they added. And this game is really fantastic, don't get me wrong, but this is definitely something that we all should be worried about. And this isn't something that we should take lightly. So it will be interesting to see if anybody at ShiftUp makes any statements about this, if they try to kind of quell the worries of consumers, or if they stay silent. Only time will tell, but this is not a good look for ShiftUp, especially when the name Tencent is already attached to them. But that's all that I had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.